everyone, welcome back to the Noon Podcast, and thank you for joining us as we dive into the world of EMS with Carey, a flight paramedic with a long and impressive career. In this episode, Carey shares his captivating experiences as an EMS professional both abroad and in the U.S. From his time in the pediatric ER to his 911 responses, Carey's stories will leave you in awe. Despite the challenges he's faced, Carey's unwavering positivity and can-do attitude have propelled him to greatness, serving as an inspiration to us all. But there's more to Carey than just his EMS journey. Hear firsthand how he navigates the fine line between his passion for EMS and his commitment to his family. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, Carey, well, thank you for joining us at the 911 Nonsense podcast. Can you go ahead and give me a little introduction of yourself?
All righty. So my name is Carey Woods. I'm originally from Tennessee. I moved out to New Mexico in 2013. And ever since, I've been here working abroad EMS and very other different tasks. Married with 2 children, ages 7 and 12. And I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So you've been in the EMS system a long time now. I've known you for a very long time. Is this where you saw yourself when you were little? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, for sure. Been in EMS for a total of 23 years now, and I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare profession, specifically EMS. When I was like 7 years old, my helicopter air medical program back home in Tennessee, I saw a helicopter fly over, landed onto the hospital pad, and I knew that's what I wanted to be.
That was
a flight
it,
medic.
huh?
Yep, so I was sold. So ever since then, I just kind of started researching, like probably back in middle school, just writing down plans of how I was going to get to that path of becoming a paramedic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did. I had a similar experience where I was young, and I was, my mom was driving me to a friend's house for a sleepover, and I passed it was a volunteer fire department, and they just happened to be pulling out for a call, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I think I'm going to look into that. And at 18, on my own, I went to the fire department and got into the fire department, and my EMS career kind of blew up from there.
Right.
So that was exciting. Have you always worked on an ambulance?
For the most part, from year 2000 up until probably, I'd say about 2012-ish, primarily worked on the ambulance. I also done other work as far as like working in the ER. Then I got introduced to doing the overseas contracting work. And then after that, just kind of ventured off and started doing other kind of work as far as getting into flight medicine, doing more traveling work overseas, contracted with the military, civilian contractor with DOD and Department of State.
What would you say has been your favorite so far out of all your experiences?
Out of all my experiences, I would definitely say the traveling part.
Traveling? Where you went overseas, right?
Yeah.
And what did you get to do while you were over there?
While I was over there, so I initially done my first contract in Iraq. That was about 2010. I deployed over to Baghdad with the military as a civilian contractor. I stayed on the base that was Saddam Hussein's palace. I took care of the local Iraqis, and then took care of military personnel and government contractors.
How were you treated while you were there? Were you recepted well?
Actually, very receptive. Like they was eager to have us over there. They was all about, as long as you was putting in the kind of effort and to kind of learn their culture and, trying to learn their language, Arabic, that you could just see like how they would just interact with you and approach you, and they didn't feel like you was just there to evade their country, or they just greeted you like just open arms, and I was very appreciative of that, because all the stuff that we seen on TV, as far as the war and stuff like that, and actually be over there firsthand, getting to see those different types of environment for myself.
Sure. I think a lot of people are kind of afraid to head over there because of what we're seeing here, on the TV and
right.
hearing in the news and all of that. So I think that's really cool. How was the pay while you were out there?
Back then, the pay was awesome. Yeah, I was making, over 100K
For a year,
yearly,
right?
yeah, salary, ups to, 150K. Then the biggest perks from that is doing your 1 year contract with limited amount of time coming home back to any U.S. territories. That's when you benefit from the tax-free
So you had to
income.
stay over there, basically.
Right.
You couldn't come home to
Or
visit
go
family or anything.
to here and there, but, to a point. That way you didn't go past those stipulations
Sure. That's
to
cool.
the tax-free.
That
So,
sounds like it was a lot of fun.
yeah.
Did you do anything crazy while you were over there?
Travel. I got to go to many different countries that I probably wouldn't have gotten to go to on my own like that.
Yeah.
So,
Where was your favorite place?
Dubai.
Dubai.
Got to travel through Zurich, Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
Got
Did you stop for any chocolate?
I didn't.
Oh,
I only
Carey.
traveled through the airport, but I got to go out on the top deck of the airport. Got to see all out in the valley. So it was pretty awesome.
That is cool.
Got to go through Amman, Jordan. Got to go through Frankfurt, Germany. Just the travels. I mean, I could ask for more as far as like
that's
just
what
getting
I hear
to
from
sightsee.
most people
Yeah.
that go and do that kind of work. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I considered it for a little while. I don't think I could leave here. For
Yeah,
that long.
it's tough, especially for myself being married, having children. But my wife was very supportive, and I make sure I took care of home while I was gone for sure. And the only downside of me traveling was I just wasn't able to take them with me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Call volume wise, would you say it was pretty similar to how it is here?
No. The acuity, high level acuity.
So like really sick people.
Really sick,
Okay.
really injured. A lot of critical care, especially like the call volume was very low. But we would sit on patients for like 2 to 3, 4 days, just trying to get them medevac out of the facility, because it was like a big old huge everything has to be done by a certain way.
Would you say that there were like a lack of resources in the area, or
No lack of resources. It's just everything just took time. Yeah, everything had to be cleared. Everything had to be approved. Everything had to. So it just was like your typical. You call 911 or you call for aeromedical, they show up and pick you up and go to the hospital. It's like, no, you have to get clearances.
dot the I's,
yeah.
cross the T's kind of stuff? Okay, cool. And so I know you worked in the 911 system here, which is a fairly high call volume.
Right.
What would you say has been your most memorable call? What's something that you think about and it just makes you smile every time you think about it?
In general, it's kind of hard to say, every kind of call that you've ever ran in EMS, something sticks with you as far as, how you've treated the patient, how you've cared for that patient, how you've cared for the family members. I wouldn't personally say one call kind of trumps the other. For me, I would probably say, let me just say this. I didn't know before coming out to New Mexico, to Albuquerque from Tennessee, that the homeless population was as crazy as it is. And some of my best calls have been just treating some of the intoxicated drunk patients that, you kind of overlook. But then when you decide to, for some reason, work them up, because something doesn't seem right, and you actually find something that's going on with them, like truly, like seriously, concern, it's like that could have easily been blown off.
Sure.
But you actually...
And I think that's probably a case that we see in a lot of
Right.
the ERs here, where people, intoxicated patients will go in with head injuries that weren't recognized, right? That's a huge problem out here.
Oh, yeah. I remember I found a patient down and out in a parking lot of a location, and midnight, pitch black dark in the parking lot, get out there, patient lying on the ground, go up to assess, not moving, check his pupils, and unequal. And I'm like, well, I don't know if this is something new or if this is something old. So I just treated it as it was something new.
Which
took
is
him in,
what we should be doing,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Took him into the ER, and the nurse called me back later on and said, "Hey, the patient has a subdural head bleed." She's like, "Good call."
Good call. Yeah, that's good.
So
it's good to hear that you were doing your job and they were doing their jobs and they took you seriously, which is good. Have you ever had a patient where you knew something was wrong, you felt that they didn't take you very seriously?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. That kind of... So a good chunk of the EMS career that I can remember starting out was always taught and told that as a paramedic, we don't diagnose, you know. And
which we all know is bullshit.
Which is, 100%. We have to have some kind of differential diagnosis, or if it's, meows like a cat, it's a cat. And that's the way you treat the patient based off of those signs and symptoms. So many times I can't even count on my hands that I've taken patients into the ERs and they're like, oh, just take them to bed 2, or I call in a stroke alert or STEMI or trauma alert, and you get there and nobody's ready.
They've already judged and said it's not serious, right? You're coming in and that's BS.
And you get there, they're looking at you like, oh, shoot, like, well, I tried to tell you. So
I think it's funny. Like, I have a couple of stories like that where, like, one of my favorite ones is I had a gentleman who had complained of lower leg numbness and tingling. And when we get there in his apartment, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. All the lights are off. He's got a TV that's playing a TV show. And then he's got a recliner next to it. And he's got a huge ashtray full of cigarettes, So I was like, okay, let's go, So we had to stair chair him down his 4th floor story apartment and get him into the truck. And I kind of peek at his legs and nothing looks bad, but his color was just a little off in the left leg. So I was like, he's got the pain. Yeah, he's got the pain. Let's treat it like it's serious. I told my partner, let's go code 3. We'll call the hospital. On the way, when I was doing my reassessment, I didn't feel pulses on the left leg. And still not a whole lot of color change, just enough still for my, my tinglies to be going off. And we get him to the hospital and the nurse is like, well, I have pulses on both feet. I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, cool. So I hung out and I was charting at the desk for a few minutes, taking the few minutes that I could. And the Doppler guy that had gone in the room comes running out and he's looking for the doctor. And I'm like, are you good, bud? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, did you find something? He's like, yeah, there's no, he's got a full left popliteal occlusion. He needs to go to surgery right away. Right. And that just made me chuckle.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go rub it in the nurse's face like, haha, you missed that. Right. Good job. But it made me feel better. And I think it hopefully made her second guess whether or not she should question all the paramedics that come in.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a good one. Do you have any good stories with your partner? Do you have any partners? Have you ever embarrassed yourself or done anything silly where you're like, oh man, I should have known better than that?
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote down.
You came really prepared today.
I did. Yeah, I went through this sheet here and I was like, that just brought back some memories and.
That's awesome.
Stuff I kind of forgot about. And I was saying one thing was I miss having the same EMS partner. Like back in the day, you would have the same partner for like years.
Yeah, usually.
And now it's like you get a new partner like every so many weeks or to every so many months. Yeah. It's like now you're having to learn each other. You're having to learn, what you're good at, what I'm good at. Don't have to worry about talking to one another and just making eye contact and just getting stuff done.
Yeah, some of the best partners you have, you don't need to talk to. You have that communication without saying a word and they've got everything ready for you or you have everything ready for them just to be able to, successfully do your job.
Gotcha. I remember a story when we was on a bad trauma call, car wreck, MVC rollover, down an embankment. Everybody was attending to this patient, trying to extricate, trying to get this patient out. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, there's too many people down here. I'm going to go back to the ambulance and get stuff set up.
Sure.
So maybe I told somebody, I just kind of disappeared. went back to the ambulance, into the back, started hanging IV bags, getting IV catheters set up, getting the heart monitor set up, just getting all this stuff set up. And I kind of peeked out. They would start to get the patient out. Kind of a few minutes go by, I kind of peeked out again. They were starting to get the patient on the stretcher and rolling them up the hill. And by the time they got to the back of the ambulance, the doors, they all just like, with their mouths dropped, like, they was like, heck yeah, Carey. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Got everything ready.
Yeah, everything ready. All I had to do was slide the patient in there and start throwing lines in and getting fluids going and getting them on the monitor. And, it was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Front door service right there.
And that's always been my background. Even when I was going through the EMS training, like I always pushed myself above and beyond to, because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it was a passion of mine to, give it my all. And throughout my EMS career, so many attaboys, for job well done, for, the compassion that shows with, my care, how I treat my patients, how I treat the family members. I mean, it shows.
I would say that having worked with you for so many years, I can attest to that. You do show that side, and that's something that you don't see in a lot of healthcare professionals anymore.
Right.
A lot, it's treated like a job and not something that you want to be here for.
Right.
So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you here to interview, is because you have that outlook on life. Like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it the best that I can every single day. And you show up every single day and you bring that, and that's nice. It's refreshing to see.
Burnout is real.
Burnout is real. And compassion
and
fatigue,
compassion
PTSD, it is all real. How would you say that you battle that at home?
So I used to work 2 to 3 healthcare related jobs, where it was EMS or 2 EMS jobs and an ER job, or an ER job and an EMS job. And it was always 2 or 3 jobs I was working. So I was getting off one, going to another one. And at some point in my life, I decided I needed to cut back. I needed to cut back and focus more on myself, focus more on my family, travel more, just be at home more. So I think for myself, I come from a musical instrument background. I was in marching band. I was from middle school, high school, playing the flute, playing, all different kinds of instruments. So I actually still own the flute. Every once in a while I get on there and, play it. I love listening to my music and traveling. Those are probably the biggest 3 things that kind of,
would help kind of mellow you out when you're having a stressful day. So you go home and you play your instruments, or you listen to music. What kind of music do you like?
All kinds of music.
Everything.
Everything. I have I have a jukebox in my head.
A jukebox. Yeah. Oh, I feel you. I constantly play music all the time.
People see me bobbing my head. They're like, "So what are you listening to?" And I don't have no earphones on or nothing. They're like, "So what are you listening to?" I'm like, "Oh, just the music in my head. I'm jamming out."
Because that doesn't make you sound crazy when you're walking down the street, bopping your head with no headphones.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "I want what he's got."
Yeah.
What's your go-to song?
Go-to song. Probably jazz.
Jazz?
Yeah,
that's good.
Like some jazz, yeah.
Jazz is good. I'm not a big fan of jazz.
Okay. And more instrumental. I like just kind of, just listening to the
notes in your head.
Notes, yeah.
Yep. Do you ever like freestyle at home?
I've tried, but yeah, it doesn't kind of work for me.
Yeah, I don't have the smarts to do that either.
Now, as far as like vocally, on the instruments, yes.
Yeah.
On my flute, I can freestyle.
That's cool.
Yes.
Is that what you played in marching band?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I played clarinet.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get into marching band though. I stopped it.
Right.
At middle school because I didn't want to get up. I saw my sister go through marching band and having to get up really early every morning, and that just was not for me.
Oh yeah.
It was not about that life. So how do you feel about PTSD in the field? Do you think that right now it's something that's blown up? Or do you think that it's something that we need to pay more attention to?
Definitely need to pay more attention to. PTSD is manageable, but you have to want to seek help for it. You can't manage it by yourself. And And that's the biggest thing is people have a hard time reaching out for assistance, for help, whether it's a pride issue, whether it's a, personal, whether it's think that they're going to be judged or looked down upon, and we see it all the time. People post all the good stuff on Facebook, social media, and all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes.
Right.
That
like
you can never know of.
You can portray that perfect,
right.
fake, happy life, but don't really understand what's going on in
right.
the background for those people.
Right. I come from a background where I grew up where we didn't really talk like that. I was always hiding my feelings and, was shy and just kind of, just kind of deal with it, And over the years, I have, opened up. I have, talked to various people about issues and things that's going on in my life. And, it's life. I mean, things happen, and as much as I would love for it to be, perfect, I'm not perfect.
No,
nobody's perfect.
Nobody is.
That's one of the things about getting involved into EMS is even when you're going through the training, it still doesn't prepare and teach you for all the stuff that we see, all the stuff that we deal with.
I think one of the worst phrases, I hate hearing it so bad, is, well, you signed up for this job. That is one of the most infuriating things I think you can say to an EMT or a paramedic, especially when they're going through a rough time.
I've been told that several times coming up in the career.
Yeah. I mean, we sign up to help people. That's why we want to do this job, right? You sign up because you want to help people, you want to help them, and you want to guide them through some of the worst times of their lives. But we're taking that pain too. And we signed up for this job knowing that there were going to be really hard days, but I didn't sign up to see some of the things that I've seen.
Exactly.
All the abused kids. One of my last calls in the 911 field was a shaken baby.
Right.
And, deaf, blind, and dumb. That's how he's going to be for the rest of his life.
Right.
And they deliberated on the person that did that to that child for less than 3 hours, and now he's out and roaming free.
Yeah, no.
And that was hard.
Right.
That was really hard and very frustrating, because why do we do this if we can't help those who can't help themselves? You know what I mean? Ugh, that was frustrating.
Oh, I bet. I know.
And, didn't receive any of the support that I felt that I needed. But I think that's kind of on us, too, to go out and find the support that we need.
Right.
And I think people forget that. It's not just going to be handed to us, and sometimes we might have to work for that. But we do have to go out and find it.
Yeah, at times I feel like I'm on a downhill kind of slope of my career. I would love to think that I could do it for another 5, 10, 15 years. And we'll just see how my health goes, how the EMS community, continues to treat us,
sure.
and the community in general. And that's just going to kind of dictate of, if I stay in this career, if I decide to, make an exit. But overall, for the most part, I've been pretty pleased.
Yeah. And I would say that the EMS system in general, the healthcare system, I should say, is improving with letting people open up and providing the resources for EMTs, for nurses, for all frontline healthcare workers and all that. There's a lot more resources out there now than there was when I started EMS, or probably even when you started EMS.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a part of the Facebook group for paramedics and the National Registry groups. I get on there and I help kind of mentor a bunch of the guys and girls that's going through the test for their National Registry and stuff like that. I was like, man, we didn't have that stuff back in the day. Like, that would have been awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Social media definitely can. It can be a hindrance in what we do, but it can also help.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of that in the last year or so too, where anytime you're going to take a test, whether it's for your national, for your state, or even for an advanced cert, there's a lot of people that are out there willing to help.
Yeah. Let me say this. Quit bashing one another and help lift each other up. I've seen that so many times, especially lately.
Yeah.
Especially lately. It's like everyone is putting each other down instead of lifting each other up. We all here to do the same work. We all go through the same schooling. We all go through the same training. It may be a different journey for you and I, but we all are on the same path. Help one another. Give back. Like, there's no reason why a person should be out there suffering by themselves when you have the resources to help them as well. You know, that's one thing I see in the social media as well. It's like just the ridiculous amount of just bashing that I see, like just putting one another down. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a huge joke, right? You're eating your young.
Yeah.
That's eating your young. That's what I've heard that phrase many times. I agree. So, Carey, I know that you're in a flight capacity now. Can you tell us a little bit about how or what you needed to do to get into a flight paramedic position?
Yes. So I've been flying for a total of 7 years. And the requirements to become a flight paramedic honestly depends on the flight program, depending on what part of the country you're trying to, get on with a flight service. But the general basic is 3 to 5 years of high acuity, they say 911 paramedic experience, meaning that you're getting various different types of medical and trauma calls. Then, of course, you have to have your side courses or cards like your ACLS, your PALS. Then you get your NRP, which is neonatal resuscitation, some kind of trauma course like a PHTLS. And then some programs require during the process, and some programs give you up to 2 years to get your advanced certifications, like your flight paramedic certification or your ground critical care paramedic certification. And then that's usually the way to get your foot in the door to the flight setting. So yeah, I pretty much went and done all that and some.
Yeah, I saw that you have a new PEDS certification.
Yeah, so it's a through University of Baltimore, Maryland. It's a pediatric and neonatal critical care transport certification, and I also done the critical care transport paramedic certification.
Is that the CCT?
The CCEMTP.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
that's cool. And those are no joke. Like, I got my FPC this last year, and I have to say that I cried every single day up until I took that test.
Yes.
It's terrible. It's really hard to study for. They definitely suggest that you go through a course.
Right.
And I had never been through a critical care course.
Right.
So a lot of my studying I did on my own. And then I used a lot of my resources. So a lot of the nurses that I know that are doing flight nursing, I talk to them about, pathophys and things that I don't understand that I'd never done in the field, like antibiotics and antihypertensives and stuff like that. Because that's just stuff we don't use here with a ground transport time of usually less than 15 minutes.
Right.
That FPC was terrible.
One of the hardest tests you'll ever take as a paramedic.
Yeah, and I think the pass rate, and it could be different now, but when I took it, I think it was 60%, which is not a great number.
Right.
And it's a very expensive test. I think I paid almost $400 when I took that test.
Yep.
And that's insane. Throughout your flight career, have you had any big scares?
Yes, I have, unfortunately. So as we know, when you get into flight medicine, like any other career that you do, it comes with the territory of risk. It comes with the territory of, for the most part, when you're doing everything right, unfortunately, things can happen.
Yeah, there's still things that can go wrong.
Right. And so I first got my first flight actually in Iraq. I was doing medevac over there, but we was doing transporting a patient from our base over to the international airport. So it was like a 20-minute flight.
Oh, okay.
I knew once I got back home from contracting overseas, I wanted to, get a flight job.
You enjoyed it, and that was what you wanted to do. Okay.
And so I got my first flight job. Initially, starting out, the company was awesome. I was super pumped. That I was going to be doing helicopter and fixed wing, medevacs, and flying out of Albuquerque. You got the mountains, the Sandia Mountains. It gets pretty windy.
Yeah, you're always going to hit turbulence.
Yeah, so it gets pretty turbulent coming in for landing and taking off to depart on these medevacs. And then especially this time of the year in May when you get the heat starting to come in and more turbulent. So, yeah, it gets pretty bumpy. And so about 7 months into my flight job, unfortunately, I went through a near miss where we almost crashed. And that 100% changed my life forever.
That one event changed your life?
That one life event.
Can you walk me through what happened?
So we had just taken a critical patient that was on a ventilator, super sick, from where did we pick up at? Let's say Gallup to Flagstaff. After we dropped the patient off, headed back to the airport, it had just started raining. We got in the airplane, done all of our checks, as usual. Me and my partner was exhausted because we, had already ran like several flights already prior. Get in the airplane, close doors, we taxi out to the, runway. We take off, headed back to Gallup, and I immediately fell asleep because I was exhausted. So all I recall and remember was the plane taking off, pitch black dark outside. It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't see anything out the distance. The plane inverted, made a hard left or right bank, nose dive straight down. The plane flipped over in rotation and put the plane in the auto flat spin.
Wow. So
the plane was spinning in the flat spin while it was dropping out of the sky.
Wow.
And it happened so quick that I was like, is this really happening?
Like you couldn't tell if you were dreaming or...
Well, it's not so much as I could tell if I was dreaming or not. It was like, you hear about this kind of stuff. I'm like, is this really happening to me? Like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe this. And so as we're dropping and dropping, I'm like, saying like, this is it. Like, because we was at about 19,000 feet. And in Flagstaff area, the terrain is roughly about 11 to 12,000 feet. So we didn't have that much wiggle room. Pitch black dark. And honestly, I say it to myself, Lord, if we crash, I just hope I go peacefully. I don't want to be, And so all we could do was just kind of embrace ourselves. The plane stalled like 2 to 3 times that I could remember. And it was pretty quick, but it seemed like forever.
Oh, yeah, no. 5 seconds can last 2 years, That's terrible.
Because we just kept going through the motion. And I kept looking out the windows, and all I could see was, like, flicks of the light. Like, cause it was, like, rotating, spinning so fast. And, the pilot was able to get us out that third time as a charm. And we was able to head back. And that's how, even though I dealt with a bunch of stuff in my life, even before getting involved in EMS, that's when the PTSD really hit me. It really
Understandably.
Hit me. And I had to go through counseling for about 3 months. And, I told myself that because this was a childhood dream and a passion, and I was like, I could walk away from this career right now before I even really started like that. I'm only 7 months into being a newly flight paramedic. I could walk away from this, but I was like, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have walked away at that point.
I want to continue to fly. I want to continue to, advance in this role. This is my passion. This is what I want. And so, you know, it took a lot. It took a whole lot.
I
can't even imagine, like,
yeah.
Yeah,
you're talking about it. It's giving me chills. That's terrible. Do you feel that, without saying any names, do you feel that that company took care of you?
No. 100% no.
Why do you say that?
They treated me like I was another number. They treated me like I've talked to people about this here and there for the incident, but every time I talk about it, it literally wants me. It literally, I feel like breaking down in tears when I talk about it, because I truly don't understand how a person like myself can be involved in an incident like that and just get brushed off like it was nothing. And I'll say this, in the long run, it worked in my favor.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So
yeah, that's terrible. That and I can see it in your eyes,
right.
Man. That's upsetting. And it's scary,
yeah.
And it's upsetting, and then to not have that support that you justly deserved,
right?
And to be thrown under the bus for that.
And all I could think about was, if I didn't make it through this, how is my family going to be treated?
Right. And it's something we all have to consider in our careers, and not just flight, but like right. On the ambulance.
Anything.
Yep. Even in the hospital these days, you never know who's going to walk through those doors.
Right.
Ugh, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. How are you dealing with it now?
I'm loving it.
Yeah, because I know you're back. You're
I'm
flying.
back.
You're doing rotor and fixed,
yes.
Right? And now you're doing with the pediatric certification, so you have a chance for peds calls. Are you doing emergency response on your rotor wing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we do emergency response. We do scene calls, and also I work for a hospital-based flight service. So on our downtime, I'm able to go down to the ER, help out, down there. I'm able to go to the OR to do my intubations. I'm able to go up to the pediatric floor and do my assessments. If I feel like that I'm lacking pediatric skills or assessments, I could just pop in and say, hey, can I hang out with you all for the day? And they'll let me do what I needed, to get done.
That's really cool. I feel like there's not a lot of services, and I'm limited in what I know, right? I only know what I know, but I don't feel like that's something that a lot of services can get. We fight for the skills that we get at my company, and it's few and far in between.
Right.
So that's really cool that you get to work at the hospital and go and do all those. Yeah. And you have, it sounds like a broad scope hospital where you can pretty much get all of the skills that you need.
Oh yeah. Now we're doing, I'm doing balloon pumps. I'm doing the impellers. Name it, we're doing it.
That's cool.
So
you guys are able to transport the balloon pumps on the fixed? Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, fixed and rotor.
That's really cool. Those things are so heavy.
Yeah. Well, they have the smaller sides as well that you can the transport sides.
Yeah, that's cool. Barring the flight that you just had, what would you say has been your least favorite or your most memorable worst call?
Overall, or just in the EMS or the flight setting? Overall. I get asked that a lot. I think my overall, and just because of the lack of experience at the time, and not even that, it's just how the calls worked out. But I had 2 back-to-back pediatric. One was a respiratory cardiac arrest. And then an hour after that was called, we got toned out for a trauma arrest, pediatric.
One right after the other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
And I sat there and watched the ER work both of the pediatrics, and couldn't revive them. And at the time it was like that stuck with me for years. I want to say about 15 years or so. That just stuck with me, and I never really even talked about it like that. I just kind of held it to myself, and that's one of the reasons why I pushed myself to. I went and worked at the trauma center here in the PZR just to get that pediatric experience, because it had been a while. And then, like I said, I went to go get the pediatric and neonatal certification, just to get that exposure.
See, and that's one thing that I like about you is that you come across something that scares the absolute shit out of us,
Right.
and instead of shying away from it, you're tackling it head on by going and get that pediatric certification, by going and working in the pediatric ER and the trauma ER. Like that's really admirable. Because again, a lot of us just take the call and, well, that sucks. Now move on.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It's not for everyone, for sure. But in our line of work, I mean, we have a wiggle room to be somewhat kind of choosy what we want to deal with or don't want to deal with. But for the most part, we're pretty much exposed to whatever's thrown our way.
Just about everything.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
It's I'd rather be prepared. I've learned that balance over my career. I've learned that balance of when I need to be aggressive and when I need to pick and choose my battles.
Sure.
I know when to. I just have that. Me personally, I just know. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. It's what works for you, right?
Right. It's like it's like you see the newly paramedic that runs all the calls to the hospital code 3 because they don't know. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And then you come rolling in through the door with something not critical, maybe not emergent, but something serious.
Yeah.
Normal traffic.
Yeah.
And you just all chill, lay back. You're like, I know this patient needs help, but and the biggest thing is if you can help that patient while you're on scene and doing your transport, then you've already got ahead of the game and getting stuff started for the patient. So by the time you get to the ER, I've had plenty of times where it's like, well, you fixed the patient.
Yeah.
Like literally, you fixed the patient. All right.
Yeah. Recognition is a big key, right?
Right.
Like recognizing what's going on and understanding, putting all of those pieces to the puzzle together to understand and treat successfully.
Right.
That's hard. So you've been doing EMS for a long time. You've been on the ambulance. You've been in the ER. You're flying. Do you have a personal bag that you take with you on every flight?
I do, actually.
What kind of gear do you take with you? What do you feel is important that you need?
So because I do rotor and fixed wing, I have to adjust mainly because of the weight limit on the helicopter, and then on the fixed wing is, you can take a lot more. So now actually on the rotor, I'm starting to wear my vest that I have. Mm-hmm. So I have a vest. It has 2 big pockets at the bottom, and then a couple other pockets up top. A radio holster, and then a big pocket in the back. And mainly that is for like my interfacility calls and my scene calls. Mm-hmm. So it has all my quick access stuff like my IV catheters, pretty much what you need right now for your medical calls.
Emergency stuff.
Right. So I'm really liking that, and I've gotten a couple of inquiries at my flight job about how do I like about it, and kind of some of the input and feedback, because I think a couple of people up there are looking at wanting to do that. And then on the fixed wing side, I have like a little small military type duffel bag, a little small bag that I usually keep, because you never know when you're going to overnight somewhere.
Yep, pair of underwear, right?
Yep.
Clean skivvies.
Toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, the basic necessities. I carry a bag of change, coins.
Interesting.
Yep, because I like the vending machines. And everything else is just...
Do you carry trauma shears?
On my vest, yeah.
Yeah, like a pen light? Do you have a
pen light, flashlight. Just because we do the checks on the aircraft before we take off.
Sure.
So go out there and do your walk around.
That's good.
Yep.
Do you guys do that for fixed wing and rotary?
Yep, fixed wing and rotary.
That's good. That's good.
Before every lunch, we get out there and we do our safety check. Make sure all the doors are secured. Making sure all the bolts are fastened. And usually all 3 of us, me, the nurse, the pilot, or whatever configuration it is, we all get out there and go counterclockwise. One go the other way, the other person go the opposite way, and we'll just do our checks.
Awesome.
And you don't deviate from that, because it'll be one time that you don't do it, and that's when something gets missed.
Yep.
So
it's a true story.
Yeah.
So I think I know the answer to this. I think probably most of us know the answer to this already. But would you do this all over again? Would you get back into medicine and relive this career?
100%.
100%. Anything that you would change?
Well, right when I graduated high school, I actually had a full ride scholarship to university to go for nursing school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you chose paramedic.
And I chose paramedic. But you know what? I think, and I've been considering going back to school for my RN or, PA route. Either way, I think I for sure make a pretty darn good,
similar decision.
Yeah. And I've gotten asked several times, hey, are you the flight nurse? Or are you the nurse? And I'm like, no, I'm the paramedic.
I know.
They like, oh man, you sure could pass off. Or they're like, because the way you give your reports, the way you interact, the way you do things, they're like, heck yeah, I would have thought you was a nurse. So, for the most part, we do the same work, just a different title.
Yeah, no, in a flight capacity, we are the exact same level. There's still a huge pay discrepancy, which is unfortunate. I know, I can't speak again for every company. I can only speak for the companies that I know, but in most of the companies that I know, there's at least a $10, about a $10 pay difference. And I can tell you that in most of the cases that I've been working with partners who are flight nurses, I have a lot more experience and a lot more education with my bachelor's, and I have the advanced cert.
Right.
And, there's still that $10 difference. It's kind of a slap in the face. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
EMS has been coming up in the last few years with recognizing that paramedics should be getting paid a little more.
Now, I will say this. So at my flight job, I'm required to have, of course, the New Mexico state paramedic license. And then as far as licensure, that's required. Mm-hmm. National registry is an option but not required. Then, of course, your advanced certification like your FPC, that's required. Or if you come on board and already have it. But because I have my pediatric neonatal critical care certification, because I have the CCEMTP, and because I have the national registry, the hospital pays me additional $4.50 an hour.
Wow.
$1.50 per certification an hour towards my pay.
That's awesome. Pay attention out there, flight services.
Yes.
So is there any advice that you would give to your younger self if you could go back?
Yes. And I actually wrote this down. Well, to my younger self, I think I moved at a pretty decent pace as far as, experience and advancing. But I also think a lot of years went by where I probably could have moved a little bit faster. But in a nutshell, I only moved as fast as life would allow me.
Sure.
There was plenty of times where I wanted to, go back and get the certification or do this and do that. But because of the work schedule or because of family life or, just to have the time to do it. And then also the younger me would truly value that family time, because as I'm learning, have learned that you don't get the time back.
You don't. Yeah, I think a lot of us miss out on that. And that's something I've discussed a lot with a few of the people that I've had on here is, we see that overtime and we take as much overtime as we can.
Right.
And we do miss out on a lot of family time and hanging out and personal time.
Right. But then I also wrote down here, what advice would I give to others? And I just wanted to say, ask yourself, what is the reason why you want to get into EMS? Becoming a first responder, EMT, or paramedic is a challenge because going through training doesn't completely prepare you for the real life situations until you're thrown to the wolves.
That's a great piece of advice, man. Well, I appreciate you coming out here today. Are there any programs that you're involved in for charity or anything that you're helping out with that you might want to shout out before we end today?
No, I'm not particularly a part of any programs. Like I said, on the social media, I'm helping out with a couple of different groups on there, the paramedic groups, the national registry groups that some of the people have put together. I get in there, I jump in, I kind of help,
So just letting
give
people
advice.
know that those resources
Right.
are out there
so
and they're
check
available.
out on social media, Facebook. There's tons of groups out there for pretty much anything as far as like traveling work, studying. Another friend of mine is working on something else. Can't mention it just yet, but it's geared towards pay.
Awesome.
For EMS.
Cool.
So,
well, when that comes out and you're able to talk about it,
yes.
we'll bring you back.
Okay.
Alrighty?
Heck yeah.
All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem. Thanks for listening to the 911 Nonsense podcast. Please remember to comment, review, and share with friends if you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested, we sell all kinds of noon merch at samspursuit.com. Again, thanks for listening and see you next week.